In our life, there's never any such thing as the bad things that we go through, the things that are unpleasant in our life, ever being simply a product of circumstance or happenstance. When we go through anything in life, every bad thing is all part of a concerted effort that the worm, Satan, uses to eventually find a way to bring you down later in life. Whether you're a child growing up in a bad household, maybe your parents are abusive physically, verbally, maybe you had a sibling, maybe you weren't abused, but you felt unloved, or maybe you were picked on in school, you were bullied all the time, you were unpopular, you felt like a social outcast. It doesn't matter what bad things that we go through, everything that is unpleasant, that is the worm's way of planting inside of every person a seed of darkness, of pain, of confliction. And what it does, what it waits for, because it's patient, it's immortal, it's spirit, so it can do that. What it does is it waits and it bides its time over months and years, sometimes decades. It will wait and it will water the seeds of pain and contention that it sowed in your heart by doing things like continuing to needle at you over your life, making other things occur around you that are unpleasant, things that causes you anger, frustration. And over time, what happens is all these things, it's like a domino effect, dominoes falling one after the other. And eventually, everything you've been through in your life, all the pain and all the hurt caused by what you think was just people in your life, by unfortunate circumstances, but what was really ultimately orchestrated by the worm. So what happens is, eventually, all of those bad seeds sprout in you, and eventually it creates something in you that's nasty. It can lead to sin. It can lead to you becoming something that you never, ever would have imagined. It's what causes people to be homosexual. It's what causes people to become transgender or bisexual or just messed up in the head. I have never known one person, for instance, who was homosexual, transgender, bisexual, even feminists. I have never known one single person like that who became that way because everything in their life growing up was honky-dory. Every person I've ever known, every single person who is that way because they did not have a happy childhood. They had things happen to them, bad things happen to them. A lot of women I know who are feminists, they had men in their life that were not good to them. Their fathers were not good to them. Maybe they were abusive, they were hurtful, or brothers, or they had bad relationships. I can't tell you how many people I know who are homosexual, non-binary, bisexual, whatever, who all of them, they were sexually assaulted when they were younger. They were taken advantage of in some way. All of those things cause traumatic scars. That was it, the worm, using those bad things in their life to plant seeds in them, dark seeds that eventually, over a period of time, once they reached adulthood and on, it caused them to break in their minds. It caused things to go wrong. It caused women who become feminists to blame all men and say all men are the same. It caused men or women who were sexually assaulted by the opposite sex to have a deep-seated psychological trauma where they don't want to be with the opposite sex then when they get older. A really good example, and I was not surprised at all to hear this. One of my favorite people, he was a star trainer for Beachbody. He was really the person who got me involved in extreme fitness in the first place, was Shaun T from the renowned Insanity program. Well, at least anybody who comes from my era when I was growing up in the late 2000s and early 2010s would know it. Shaun T, he's homosexual. And it wasn't all that long ago, he came out and he actually admitted that he was that way. Well, he didn't say he was homosexual because of this, but he revealed not long ago that he was a survivor of sexual assault when he was younger. I don't know the specifics, but I know for a fact. Now, of course, he didn't say that the sexual assault is what led him to become homosexual. He didn't say that, but I know because, again, I've known every person I've ever known who was of those particular ideologies. They all had the same things happen to them. When I found out that he had been sexually assaulted when he was younger, I knew. I was like, okay, that just, yet again, you're not surprising me. But see, things like that, it causes people, the pain that it inflicts, those seeds, over time, those seeds are going to sprout, and it's either going to make you become something dark or bad yourself. It's going to make you become a monster. It's going to make you become, it makes people become murderers themselves later, serial killers, thieves. They grow up. Those seeds sprout in them to the point where they inflict pain on others. And for some people, it causes them to commit sin. They get, again, confused in the head. But it all starts with the seeds of darkness that the worm plants. Every bit of pain you ever went through in your life, even the smallest bits, bullying, sexual assault, anything you ever went through, that was the worm's way of planting those seeds inside of you. So that later in your life, you would fall. You will become someone bad or nasty, and then spread that darkness, spread its poison to other people. And why, do you ask, does Father allow the worm to do that? Because it's no different than when you have a child and you teach your children right from wrong. And how many times does a parent, when they know their child is doing something wrong, they stand back and they let their child make their own decision, because they know if they step in and they stop their child from doing every single thing they know is wrong, their child's never going to learn. They know their child has to make their own mistakes or go through their own issues to learn, to grow and become a better person, to learn life lessons. That is no different than what Father does. Father allows. People always say, why does he allow bad things to happen? Father allows the worm to plant a seed. And then Father gives you the ability to choose. Are you going to let those seeds sprout and to become something dark in you? Are you going to let it make you turn to sin, become mentally cracked and confused? Or if you were a woman and you were hurt by a man, are you going to let it make you a man-hating feminist? Are you going to allow it to turn you into somebody who doesn't ever want to be with a member of the opposite sex, so you're going to turn homosexual and be with somebody of your own gender? Are you going to be non-binary and say, oh, I'm no gender that can be identified? Or are you going to let it mess you up so much that you're going to change what you are, transgenderism, to become something different? Father allows all those things to happen to give you the option and the choice. Are you going to take all that pain you went through, and are you going to let it turn you into something bad or dark or fall? Or are you instead going to use that pain you went through, all those bad things, and rise above it? Instead of letting your pain and the trauma and all of the bad things that happened to you in your life, instead of letting it define you, are you going to define it and become something greater? Because just as many people allow bad things to turn them into something bad, or they let it confuse their minds and they lose their mind and they become something ideologically unnatural, just as many people who go through those things and fall, there are many people who the bad things they go through, they rise up on the other side out of it, and they become better people for it. They don't let that pain define them. They rise to a higher standard. They use that pain to help other people, to rise to be something greater. They say, no, I'm not going to let those horrible things define me. I remember reading a story one time about a guy who he grew up in a horrible, his mother was a demon. She was horrible, and she would keep him locked up. I think it was like she kept him locked up in the basement or in the attic or something for years. I mean, she was a monster. And eventually, somehow he got away from her. I don't know if it was social services or what it was, but when the man grew up, instead of letting the horror he went through as a child define him and turn him into something horrible, he instead became a very positive life coach, positive speaker. He used that pain to help him become something good to help other people. So anybody who ever says the words, well, the pain I went through was just too bad, I had no choice but to become this. No, that is most definitely not true. You are allowing yourself to feel that way. You are giving up. You are allowing those things to define you. And that is no different than basically allowing all those same people who hurt you to hurt you all over again. And it all comes back to the worm. Because Father has given you an opportunity. With everything bad you went through, He's given you the opportunity to take those bad things and rise up and become something greater through it. To be a help and shine a light to other people. He's given you an opportunity. He's given you the option to make your life something great out of the trauma you went through. Because if this world did not have people go through traumatic bad things and choose to rise up out of it and be a light for other people and help other people, then this world would be even more lost than it is now. Because you would have nobody out here trying to help others. You would have nobody out here trying to shed light. You would have nobody out here trying to be a beacon in an otherwise dark world. Some people have got to go through trauma and go through pain to become the heroes and become the beacons of hope for others. And in so many ways, in Father allowing bad things to happen to people, He's given them the ability, the opportunity to rise above that and become heroes. Because no hero is forged in lieu of fire or some kind of traumatic occurrence. I mean, in fiction, almost every superhero that ever got powers, it wasn't a pleasant experience. Something happened that was traumatic to turn them super. And the people that got turned super and didn't do right by it became super villains. And those who chose to rise above what happened with those powers, they became superheroes. It is no different than the things we go through. Father lets us go through bad things. He lets the worm put us through bad things, sow bad seeds, so that we can choose to rise above that bad stuff and become a hero. And there are many people, unfortunately, who choose to become villains. But Father knew that. And here's the thing. Father already knew that would happen with the people that chose to become a villain. And why would you ask, does He allow that? Because just because that person became a villain doesn't mean that their actions are not going to spiral and eventually lead into something good. That person may have went through something bad and became a villain, or went cracked in the head. But then maybe they have a child, or they affect somebody who they look at them and say, I'm not going to become that person. And then they rise up. Every villain will eventually give rise to a hero. Every person who ever spreads pain will eventually spread that pain to somebody who will break the cycle and change it for the better. The best thing you can do, let's say you've lived a good life for the most part. Maybe you're not one of the people that's went through traumatic things. Maybe Father's allowed you to live a good life for the most part. You had a good family, good parents. You didn't really go through a lot of things. You have, in many ways, an even greater responsibility. You could literally be used as the furnace, as the smelting device to help transform some of the people that have been through trauma. You need to remember, every person you ever meet in your life, all has went through their own crap. Even if you've never been through traumatic stuff, bad traumatic stuff, you've been through bad stuff. All people have. You need to remember that no matter who you meet, no matter how nasty they are, how unpleasant they are, how much they vex you, how much they anger you, whoever it is, they could be a bane in your life. But one thing you can never forget is they have been through bad things in their life, no different than you have. And everything they've been through, every bad thing, what they are now is a byproduct of those bad things. So if you forget that, then when they act however they act, it's not pleasant, and you feed that by getting mad at them and angry at them and hurting them, you could unintentionally be helping to make them into a villain or make them worse. But if instead, it could be somebody who was bullied. You might know somebody who's a real piece of work. They're just really, really difficult to get along with. But they could have been bullied horribly when they were younger. And so now they are very reactionary, and now they lash out at other people before they can get hurt again. But if instead of reacting to that person's nastiness, if you instead handle them with love and compassion, you could have such a profound effect on them that you could break the cycle. You could help them heal from their traumatic wounds of being bullied and help them become something better out of their trauma. Or you could respond to their aggression with your own aggression. You could confirm through that all the anger they have inside of themselves from being bullied when they were younger, and you could help make them into a worse bully. You could help make that trauma in them worse. That is why, even though Shaul, Paul, in the scriptures, he had it a little bit backwards, the greatest thing of all in life, especially concerning our relationship with Father, is faith. Because without faith, we can't love Father, can't please Father. You have to believe and have faith first before you can do anything. But in Shaul's mind, he said that one of the most important things, he said the most important was love. Now, with other people, that's true. With Father, the most important thing isn't love, it's faith. It's not love, long-suffering, patience, it's faith with Father. With people, Shaul, Paul is dead on the money. Love is the greatest of all things. Because through love, if you handle people with love and understanding, you could heal a multitude of wounds. A multitude. And you could help transform a lot of people into being something better and not letting their trauma define them. You might be the one act of kindness in their life that they've ever really, truly known that could change them. And that's incredibly important for us to remember. Because if not, and we go around just thinking everybody's just being nasty just because, if we don't stop to consider, if we've been through bad things, so is somebody else. And that everything that we go through, however that person is right now, it is a byproduct of those seeds that it planted, the worm planted in them a long time ago, and it's now sprouted in them, and it's making them do bad things. It's making them become the unpleasant person they are now. And if we don't remember that, we're never going to be able to be used by Father to be a positive outlet or a change in anybody's life. So keep that in mind with all of your interactions with anybody. That is incredibly important. Very important.